Good evening and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl number 42. I'm thrilled to say we're going to have a slightly different episode. Most of them tend to be, but this one is different in an even different way. In that we're going to have the question and answer session for the Team England Prospective Captains. They've both agreed to come live on the show, which is fantastic. We've also been joined by a member of the Team England Committee to explain to me, who doesn't really understand any of it, exactly what's going on with Team England and how it all works, because that seems like if there's a captain and a committee, is it just like cricket? I don't know. So hopefully we're going to hear all about that and when voting is going to kick off and how we get our vote. If you are English NAF registered, I suppose, I don't know, how that would all happen. And we're going to have some questions and answers thrown at two people, lovely people, good friends of mine who you've seen before or heard before if you've caught up with all the One World, One Blood Bowls. So good evening to PeteW up in the top corner there.
Good evening. Hello.
And good evening, Core. Okay, you might still be muted. I didn't hear that.
Oh, good evening.
Thank you. We will talk to them in a little bit, but both should not be strangers to anyone who knows anything about Blood Bowl. Peter's, of course, been the Team England captain for a while now. Very, very well-known figure on the tabletop scene. Lots of wins behind him. Well-known also across Fumble for his many wins there. Core, no less known, again a Fumble legend with majors and lots of wins behind him. Also known on Blood Bowl 2 and in the tabletop community, these are two monsters of the game. Both have represented England and both have won plenty of things in the past. I genuinely couldn't think of two people more qualified to be the Team England captain, but there can only be one, Highlander-like. That's the rules, isn't it? According to my new friend, SpeedingBullet. Hello, good evening.
Hello everybody. Yes, there can only be one Team England captain. Absolutely right, and we're sort of right in the middle of the process of choosing the next one, which could be a continuation of PeteW or it could be KFoged.
His mighty reign may trundle onwards. So you're on the Team England committee. What's that all about, and how did you get there?
So what it's all about. So each nation, I think, that wants to play in the Euro Bowl has to come to a view, sort of within the Blood Bowl community in that nation, about how they're going to run their team. So what we have in England at the moment is we have a committee. So that's 4 elected committee members, of which I'm one. There actually wasn't an election the last time because only 4 people stood.
Right.
But if there were more than 4 candidates, there'd be an election. And then the current captain is also on the committee. So we have a committee of 5. And the committee's job is to really lead the sort of community consensus on how we run the team. And the way we do that is we have a charter which sets out how we do that. And the committee's role is enshrined in the charter, if you like, as is the captain's. And there are some other sort of ways, that we run Team England, if you like, all set out in that document.
And that charter's also up for renewal at the moment, isn't it?
That charter is up for renewal. Yes, it's not a wholesale rewrite. It's very much the same charter that we've had for quite a while since we last updated it, which was when was that? It was probably 5 years ago, something like that, or 24 years ago, possibly 2019. So it's really a tidy up. Things have changed a little bit, so some things are tidied up in there in terms of dates, allowing us to bring things forward without disagreeing with the statements in the charter, if you like, and also putting into print the way we chose the EU Open team for Malta.
Okay, so that's going to again be folded back into the England team in some way, as I understand it.
Yes. So what we're going to do, so we've got the 8, if you like, for the Euro Bowl itself, and then we're also putting an official, if you like, Team England team in the Euro Open.
Right.
So it's how that team is selected, which is going to be slightly different to how we select the team for the Euro Bowl.
Okay. Any headlines there that I should be aware of? What's the slightly different bit?
So the proposal in the charter that is being voted for acceptance at the moment is to continue with what we did for Malta, which was basically committee selects the Euro Open team. So the elected captain selects the Euro Bowl team, and then the committee selects the Euro Open team.
And the captain is on the committee, but isn't all powerful.
The captain is on the committee, but isn't all powerful.
But is all powerful when it comes to Team England. So if I want on Team England, I put a tenner in one of these guys' pockets.
Well, I don't think that'll work. But yeah, in terms of selection for the main Euro Bowl, the 8-player national event, yes, the elected captain is the all-powerful decision maker.
Do the committee have any say or some input or?
Yeah, well, I think anyone who the captain is prepared to talk to can have a say or an input, but the decision making rests firmly with the captain.
And why do you want to be on the committee? You put yourself forward, you said so. What's the good thing about the Team England committee? What?
I did. I was keen to put so this is the second time, if you like, I've been on the committee. So I was aware that the charter needed a bit of a tidy up, and I was quite keen to, or happy to be involved with that, if you like. I also thought it would be good to have a little bit of continuity from the previous committee. So I think, I'm the only remaining person, if you like, from of the 4 non-captain committee members, if you like.
Right. And
That
it's
were
a
elected
4-year
previously.
cycle. You serve for 3 years, and then there's a year with the World Cup. Where we
Yeah,
don't
it's
really
a sort
need
of World Cup cycle, if you like. So
Right.
yeah, the 3 Euro Bowl events and the 1 World Cup, making it a 4-year cycle. And it was slightly different because of COVID. In the previous cycle, it was actually 5 years, I think, in the end.
Well, I mean, thank you
That's
for
the
giving
idea.
up your time for Team England. I should also mention that the actual vote we're talking about opens tomorrow for the Team England captain, doesn't it? Whereas the charter, it's already underway.
That's right. So the vote for accepting or not accepting, if that's your view, the updated charter is open at the moment, and that closes on the 4th of November.
Right.
For the captaincy, Q&A underway at the moment. Voting opens tomorrow and closes on the 6th of November.
Yes, tomorrow being the 30th of October. If you're not watching live, that probably might even be today. It might be in the past. Time is a very flexible thing when it comes to these sorts of formats. That's the modern world for you. I try and keep up, but it all just whizzes past me. I think we've got 2 cracking candidates. Is the committee happy with how the process is going and enough people stepping forwards?
Yes, I think so. It's always nice to have more than one candidate, so that there is a meaningful Q&A. And we've obviously got this, face to face, if you
Yeah.
like, rather than just in writing today, which is great as well. So yeah, and I can't speak for all the other committee members, but yeah, I'd say we're happy with how it's going. As you've already said, we've got 2 excellent coaches
Yeah,
put their
we
names
really do.
forward.
I did
Yeah.
call the people that used to run the old Gladiators TV show to see if the one where you fought with the giant cotton buds, to see if that set was still available. That's the show I would have loved to have seen this evening, but
Maybe one year we'll get there.
I mean, that's I think the true core of this is gladiatorial combat between any prospective candidate. Last one standing survives. So good evening, Cor and Pete. I've kept you waiting whilst we establish what's going on and what Speeding's doing here, which has very much been the official voice of the Team England committee. Good evening to you 2.
Evening.
Evening.
Now, I did say we would have a coin toss live, so we will do that. I have a small part of my lovely Team Ireland reroll token here. If you don't know what that is, then you're missing out on a deep cut into the nerd world of collecting stuff. I'm going to flip it up in the air. Pete's smiling the most, so Pete can choose between green side or red side.
Red.
Unfortunately, it is green. Cor, I'll give you the choice. Are you going to start with your opening statement, or are you going to make Pete go first?
I think we'll let Pete, as the sitting captain, go first.
Okay, so we're going to start with Pete's opening statement, and then we'll go to Cor's opening statement. I've asked them to keep these to about 5 minutes or less. After that, we'll go to a question and answer session. I have a lot of questions to ask them. We'll cover that once the opening statements are done. After the opening statements, if either wants to respond to something in the other one's opening statement, if they've changed from talk fantasy football or something, they might want to ask why or make a point back. I'll give them a chance to do that very briefly. It doesn't need to be that formal. We're all friends. I'm sure we can muddle through. That said, Pete, you've been put into bat. Your time begins now.
Super. Thank you very much. And I guess I'll start by saying I desperately hope I won't be talking for 5 minutes. I think listening to one person droning on in this channel is probably enough. And if it came to pugil sticks, Core, you can have it. Okay, I'm not getting in the ring with that man. I'm sorry. So as to being captain, it was great. I mean, I've loved being captain. I think the reason why I'm standing for a second time is that back in 2019 when I was elected. I was very excited, knew the game, knew the community, was looking forward to, as was Poland 2020. And then, of course, the world went mad. We had COVID. We then had the new rules set. So there was probably a hiatus of about 18 months of Blood Bowl tournaments. So when we finally got around to Malta 2022, it was a different game and a different group of people. The committee very kindly agreed to honour my captaincy, give me another go, which was very good of them. And in turn, I honoured the original selection I'd made. We had one change because unfortunately, someone's wife had said that 2020 was going to be their last overseas tournament, then were denied their ticket for 2022, which was very sad. But we had a stand in there. So that was kind of the position we were in. And when we got to Malta, there was it wasn't ideal, and England's run of wins came to an end, and we finished with a very average position. So I guess 2 years on, I feel that there's a lot more community understanding for 2020 rules. I think the English community has increased and grown and is in a much more exciting place. And I guess I'd like to have a go at captaining properly, I think. So to see whether I can lead the team, a well-prepared team, and win. There's more I could say about the events of 22.
We have a lot of questions coming up about 22.
Which we've got a lot of questions on that one, so I won't dive into that then. But I think also I'd say that so I played for England in 2018 when the team won in Wales, which was great. It was a super event to be part of. And then obviously elected in 2019, went to the World Cup, which was also very good. But I think when it came around to picking the team and the races, I was swayed by some of the more prominent voices. Still feeling like a bit of a new guy, and I didn't listen to some of the other newer voices. Corey's laughing. I've already apologised to him in private for not listening to him, and I should have done. So I think now I'm in a position where I feel more confident in myself as a human being. So I would be much happier just to say, no, but that's not how we're doing it now. Team England's moving on. We've changed from the old ways of assuming that we're just going to win without doing any thinking or practice. And actually, this is a new game, new races, new meta game, new coaches. We need to work a lot harder. So I'd like to do that as well. So I feel I in part, I let the country down and the team down, let myself down maybe. So I'd like to have another go, make amends for that.
Thank you, Pete. Cor, would you like to, first of all, respond to anything in there specifically?
I was about to say, I'm not sure I need to.
Okay. In that case, please let us have your opening statement.
Yeah. It's if hopefully most people know me. I've been regular guest in the UK even before I moved here. The funny fact is my first NAF tournament was the NAF World Cup, but truly I've been the first tournament that really got me hooked was the year after playing the Blood Bowl Grand Tournament, where I got invited over with a group of other people for the White Owl and Fumble to stay at Pete's, and had a cracking time. And to some degree, never looked back since. I played about 400 games, I think, in the UK since. No, only in England. More if you take Scotland and Wales. I think over 400 games just in England. Moved to the UK in 2016 after I've been representing Denmark when I lived back in Denmark. But felt like since my main tournament scene has been the UK since 2010, so moving here on top of that mean it felt naturally to play with the people I see every day. I played tournaments in the UK from Portsmouth to Carlisle in one end of the country, going to Kent next year. So been to Hartlepool. I think I've been also to the neighbouring country in Edinburgh, and I've been around in the UK. Hopefully, I've seen most of the people listening. I was about to say if they play tabletop by now. And there's no doubt it was a bit of a weird experience last year in Malta for a lot of reasons. Pete touched a bit. I felt, yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm running is I felt a bit like it was a bit stalemate. I've tried to push towards a bit more aggressive selection of teams and a bit of more aggressive way of approaching the game than England had been doing before, and I was silence was the best I can say of nothing. There was not much listening, which I think was a bit sad. One thing is we could have a talk about it and then agree on it, but there was not much. And like everybody, there was not much going back that way. I think one of the other reasons is I think we're all a bit tired of the whole it's all boys club and all the other things. So I think my idea was to try an approach that was more taking more into account when we are selecting team, getting out there, getting some representatives, some ambassadors in the different area where we don't naturally, like I've been everywhere, but I cannot get there every weekend. So if we can get some Team England ambassadors in the local area where people actually play, hopefully we can get people feel more as the part of what Team England is behind the team. I feel a bit in Malta that most people kind of enjoyed England not doing well of the English coaches, which made me quite sad. Not all, but I think there was quite a few that seems quite to enjoy Team England not doing well, and that shouldn't be that way. Like, so yeah, so no matter who wins, I hope we can at least all help each other, also with SpeedingBullet and the rest, to get people to actually support Team England and feel it's their team. And,
Certainly, there's been plenty of chatter and interest around this subject, which I think is very hopeful.
And no matter what, if whomever wins, that's still my goal. Is we find a way where people feel it's their team.
Pete, anything you want to come back on there before we move on?
No, just to say I was delighted when Core decided to stand as captain. I mean, I picked him for the last Euro Bowl. As he's just said, I dragged him into this tabletop hobby, as I seem to do with people around the world. So no, I'm delighted standing. I think he'd be a great captain.
Is this a Sith master and apprentice moment? Are we seeing that?
No, not at all. And I think it's been particularly good in that the comms we've had on the Q&A channel, I think, have been really useful for the hobby. And if he hadn't stood, we wouldn't have had anywhere near the depth, and we wouldn't have had the positive effect that we've been seeing already.
Now, as well as Talk Fantasy Football, I've also dropped this advert a few other places, and I have had some questions in from there, as well as picking some of the Talk Fantasy Football ones up. I know you have answered there, but it's my hope that I occasionally might reach some people that might not, though that Talk Fantasy Football thread does remain open during the voting process, and I'm sure more questions will arise, possibly even from people listening to this show. While I was putting those questions together, one thing did strike me, which is that there's a lot of very nice questions, a lot of very supportive questions, some very selfish questions, and one or two that just I felt were a little bit aggressive, and that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. So I've put all of those together, and we're going to go with those first. Strangely, horribly, partly because I think there are two issues which I think each of you could talk about very briefly. They've been part of both of your opening statements as well, so this is going to be a nice, simple process. But they hang over some of the other questions people asked. So pulling them all out and just dealing with them first, get them out of the way, and then we can move on to other subjects. So, Core, starting with you, this is not going to be a surprise, but some people have been talking, obviously, about the fact that your actual passport, I believe, is still Danish.
Yeah, and that's definitely not going to change for good reasons.
Okay, so the first these might be one word, they might be slightly longer. I leave it entirely to you. The first one is: can we ask KFoged why he doesn't want to represent Denmark?
Because I haven't played a Danish tournament for. I was about to say, even when the last Euro Bowl I played was to say goodbye, kind of, for the Danish team in 17. I haven't played a Danish tournament forever.
Okay.
where I'm been playing.
Do you have any English heritage?
Definitely not. Oh, potentially. Who freaking knows? Actually, let's be honest.
Is it
We've been
simply
here before.
yes? Is it simply down to you living in the UK for so long, feeling part of the UK Blood Bowl scene, and being disconnected from the Danish Blood Bowl scene?
Yeah, it's very much like again, like I was saying, I haven't played a Danish game in forever, but I played about 400 games in this country. I play in a league here. I'm part of running that league, hosting tournaments,
One
trying
person,
to host that new team tournament.
one person has strongly implied you might be joining England and wanting to be Team England captain solely to pad out your amount of wins and your championship collections. Are you joining England and wanting to be England captain for competitive reasons?
Competitive reasons, no, to play with the people and represent the country I play in and the scene I'm part of.
Okay. Only two more. Can we expect another alliance switch and you wanting to go back to representing Denmark? This person says, I think wants to know if you're in. Are you all in? Are you in for life?
Life is a big question. Who knows where life takes you? But as long as I'm part of the UK English tournament scene, I'm definitely not going anywhere else because this is my spiritual blood bowl home.
Okay. And this is, I believe, a blood bowling version of the Tebbit test, if you know that horrible thing. What would be more satisfying and more rewarding? Winning a team major as part of Team England or as part of the Danish national team?
If I wanted to win with the Danes, it should just stayed, right?
They did actually win the last one, yes.
Yep.
Okay, I feel we can cross that one off now. NAF rules state that Cord can represent England. He's made every criteria. And the criteria for Team England and for selection and for Team England selection, captain selection, he's met them all. So as far as I'm concerned, that's where it starts and finishes. Pete, anything you wanted to say on that?
No, just to add full support to Core. He's happy to identify as English for Blood Bowl reasons, and I was delighted to have him on the team last year. I mean, he's been paying taxes in England for quite a few years now. I mean,
damn sight more than I have. So, yeah, absolutely. Pete, there's another issue hanging over you. I'm going to deal with that in a similarly brief or extended way, whatever you want to say. You have covered some of this in your opening statement. You led Team England to its lowest ever finish. Do you accept this was a failure?
Yeah, partially. I think some people have pushed back on me on this and said that I'm being too harsh on myself, and that Blood Bowl is a dice game. I mean, just using Core as an example. I mean, he finished with the second highest finish, and was the only person on the team not to lose, which was an amazing achievement. But I think, was it 3 of your draws could have been wins, but you like snaked one turns? It was 3 failed one turns, was it? Something stupid like that.
It was a combination between that and also finishing a bit early, so needing to take draws, not to risk anything.
Sure.
It was like a little bit of It was quite safe draws, all of them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of during the tournament there were a lot of stories of a catalogue of unlikely events which turned wins into losses. So I think we just had that tournament, which did cause the losses. But yeah, I've covered them already. I think we didn't take Underworld. That in hindsight was a massive mistake. Completely undervalued them.
Did we have Skaven?
I was quite. Sorry?
Did we have Skaven either?
No, we didn't have Skaven, didn't have Underworld, didn't have Skaven. I don't think we took any stars.
Nope.
And I think I gave players a little bit too much control over their own teams without actually sharing it too much. I think I trusted the team too much. So I don't want to name names, but one person didn't take a positional, which they should have done, which every other nation had taken. And that was a mistake. So yeah, there were definite mistakes, and I'm very happy to own those. And yeah,
right. I mean, you've covered a lot of the next two questions already. What do you think the reasons were for that placement in 11th? Would you majority put it down to slip-ups we can solve, or the dice? If you had to pick a top reason.
I don't think I can. It's so hard to quantify. Maybe 50-50.
Sure.
Go evens.
What personal lessons have you taken from this? You've talked about a
So yeah, as I said, so
sterner,
lessons
tougher
in
Pete.
leadership. Sorry.
You said a sterner, tougher Pete.
Yeah, lessons in leadership. I think I was maybe not quite as forthright as I could have been as captain. I was trying to sort of people please a bit too much, maybe. So yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to be firmer at making people essentially be part of a team rather than a collection of individuals who are used to winning.
This is hard. This is brutal.
I can take brutal.
Why do
Go
you
for it.
deserve our trust once more? Why should failure be rewarded?
Isn't that a typical English thing?
Well, I mean, this is Cora's right, and as Cora said earlier, when there were people that were delighted that England were losing. It is sadly part of our national pastime that if anyone is either succeeding or doing badly, we hate them in equal measures as English. Well, what I would do is I would implore the English Blood Bowl community not to lower ourselves to the same as being football fans. We don't need to punish failure of our leaders. We need to see them, if they're humbly recognising their mistakes, give them another chance.
If you were elected and then defeated again at 2024, would you expect another go?
I think I'd like to do it twice. I don't think I'd want to keep going. I don't think that's good for Team England. So if I was successful here, even if we won, I wouldn't stand again. I'd say give Cora a go. Give someone else a go. So yeah, doesn't
And
matter.
then to finish on a high, what do you consider your achievements as Team England captain in the current run that you've had?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I was quite pleased how I played in Malta personally. I was quite happy with the communication we had and the way that the team were happy to take draws if they needed them, or to sacrifice a draw trying to get an unlikely win. So I think that the team on the actual matches, I was quite pleased with how that worked, even if maybe the preparation beforehand wasn't as good. In terms of, I mean, I've been captain now for 4 years through COVID, so I'm pleased that a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with the committee. I mean, Jim's been on the committee for that same length of time as well. I'm quite happy how I've been encouraging the committee, helping get things moved along there, and a lot of that's not seen. So that's something that Core might have to look forward to.
Okay, that's the beast mode questions over. They weren't easy, I know, and they were horrible at times, but I felt that if we dealt with those issues, we could move on to other more important things. As a way of doing so, I'm going to start this time back with Pete. If Andy Davo offered you a free selfie, how long would you be prepared to queue? Now, they're usually €10 a pop. So how long would you queue for a free selfie taken with Andy Davo?
I think Andy would have to pay me, actually.
Okay. A tough answer. The new core of iron coming out there. Speaking of which core, how long would you be prepared to queue for a free Andy Davo selfie?
I spent all Alicante trying to find him, so
Hours?
apparently just to say hi to him. He's
Okay,
seemingly
multiple
nowhere
hours.
to be found. He's
Core-
seemingly nowhere to be found. when you
Core, the
want to
man of the
find him.
people there, would queue multiple hours, as would we all, for a free selfie with Andy Davo. They're never free. They're €10. Pete, not interested. Probably reads The Guardian. So we have had lots of other questions. Eurobowl has obviously cropped up a lot, but as have some other issues. Let's crack into some of those. Starting this time with Core. What does leading Team England mean to you?
I think we're going back to, for me, this is again back. I think we could do better at getting out a bit more. The tournament scene is big and sprawly. So for me, leading is just as much making sure we talk with all the right people and help. Because in fact, we need people to put themselves forward, and we cannot physical be everywhere in this country because there's so much Blood Bowl going on. So to some degree, for me, leading is actually getting the right people involved.
Okay, I mean that's very practical. What about your feelings? Is it something that's going to fill you with pride, or are you feeling motivated, or do you remember feelings? Those things that humans have.
It's
Let's try some of those.
if if I wasn't motivated and I didn't like have my Team England shirt upstairs, and I'm very happy for it because it meant, to some degree, for me, it meant being accepted of the country I moved to, and the tournament scenes I'm part of. And again, I asked around before signing up as well, putting my name forward, and everyone was on board with the idea, which means a lot for me, because it is like the home of my Blood Bowl pretty much since 2010, to be honest, where I played. Like, I think I was in the UK 10 or 12 times doing 1 year, living in not here.
Same
So
question to Peter.
being-
What does Team England mean to you? I mean, obviously redemption, a powerful narrative, but we've all seen X Factor. Have you got a dead granny to throw into the mix or something? A child who urgently wants you to be Team England captain, anything like that?
No, although he's already told me he's voted for Core, so not much I can do about that. Is it? I think he thinks he's got a better shot at being on the team with Core because I've already told him that I can't do any nepotism. No, I mean I'm hugely proud to be part of Team England. Got the jumper on, which I didn't just put it on for this evening either. I wore it to church this morning. Had a couple of questions. Oh, what's that about? Love to talk about Blood Bowl and representing the country there. No, it's something that I really enjoyed doing. I mean, when I got the call for Wales 2018, similar to Core, it was it was a really happy moment. I was delighted, and a bit trepidatious as well. What if I go and I go 006? People will hate me, but yeah. I'd love to be captain again, and I think as you say, redemption is it's a powerful motivator. Obviously, personal for me as well. I'd like to give it a proper go. I'd be very grateful for the community support.
Okay, we've already talked a little bit about this. So, Pete, what would you do differently to ensure a competitive England, more competitive than they perhaps were when we come to Greece?
Yeah, I think I'd start by saying pleading a small excuse in that I felt I had to keep the same squad that I'd picked in 2019 to actually compete in 2022 post-COVID. So I think I'd have a fairer shot at it because barring any more pandemics, I'm hoping that Greece 2024 will be going ahead as planned, which means I'll be picking, if I'm captain, I'll be picking a team that I've got a couple of good years of data for, people I've got to know, people who've got bedded into the rule set. So I think it's a better time to be picking a team now than it was time before. And it's an exciting team. I mean, when I looked for 2019 and I took a list of the top 50 coaches, I think I knew all of them apart from 3. When I took a list of the top 50 coaches last week, I think there were about 14 or 15 that I didn't know. And that's really exciting. It shows that we've got new talent coming through. So I'll be looking at some of their games if they've played on Fumble. I'll be reviewing some replays, seeing how they play, seeing what they do. It's an indicator. Looking at rankings, looking at seeing how they've fared. Have they had to play the mighty PurpleChest at the UKTC? Did they reduce him to tiers? If so, straight in. It's going to be interesting. There's different areas that we can both look, and as Cor said, we don't know everyone, so we are going to be reaching out. If there is someone who's played a lot on Blood Bowl 2 and there's good coaches coming from there, then I'll say, what do you think about so and so? Although it does need to be said that how we select the team does raise questions. So for 2019, it was people put themselves forward confidentially, and with the idea being that only the choosing captain would know that they'd put themselves forward. But I think if we want to have a more of a, if not a public self-nomination, then perhaps saying, well, you can put yourself forward, but I will be having quiet, confidential conversations with a few people about you. I suspect that's the way that both Core and I would probably go about the selection process this time. Sorry, Core, I don't want to speak for you.
No,
but
I mean he's going to get the
giving
exact
similar
same
answers.
question in a second.
I was about to say I've been quite open about that's
So,
my plan.
well, first of all, let me just check. So really, your answers to what would you do differently so far is a much wider pool to perhaps pick from and try and get some more younger, more up-to-date talent, maybe, and to have
Yep.
a Stasi-like investigation of anyone offering themselves for Team England.
Sure. Oh yeah, sorry, before Core jumps in. And also I think during team selection and roster selection there will be a lot more. There will be, some people said they didn't want to play on Fumble last time, and I just sort of let them off with that. I think the opportunity on Fumble to do some serious roster testing is foolish to pass up. So that will be a requirement. Everyone has a computer that can run Fumble. So we'll be doing a lot more sort of team thinking about what's the races, what are the rosters, those sorts of questions.
All under the new iron-hard grip of the new PeteW. Core, you were in Malta. What would you have done differently? So the same question basically, but what would you do there? What would you have improved? What would you change next time?
I think this year it gives itself because the Eurobowl rules, you cannot build the rosters without building them together with the whole system. So you cannot build in you need to cooperate together to figure out the skill packs and whatever circus is called. Of course, Pete has kind of bound himself into a bit of a knot, saying he, as best as possible, bringing the same team forward. That makes it hard to do much. But I do think we do need to. There's so many coaches coming up. Every time you play somewhere new, there's new names, and if you look at the different rankings, there's just new names. And it is just, I've been quite open. I cannot be anywhere, everywhere. But I know quite a lot of people around in the country, and I'm going to talk with people because, in a formal way, with the people who lives there, because you can look at Fumble replays, you can have a chat with people, but knowing the people and actually knowing them it's a different thing. It's quite a different game, tabletop to online as well. There's also a whole other of your behavior, where I also quite from if you had the best player, but he was not respecting your opponent, I'm not gonna pick the person.
Okay, we're going to come to that in a sec, I hope. Now, this was both Pete there as captain, Core there as a player. You were a quarter of the team. This was the lowest England has finished for the first time in 6 Euro Bowls. So 5 wins in a row, and then this one we didn't. Do either of you feel it was your fault? And if not, whose fault was it? And how do we move forwards? So this time we're going to start with Core, and then we'll go to Pete. It's an awkward question. Was it your fault? Do you feel it was your fault? Do you feel that emotion?
I think somebody didn't listen when Pete told us not to lose a game.
Okay. And what have you learned that you would take forwards to do differently?
I think personally, what I regret from that Eurobowl was actually I played quite fast and ended in some situation where I was quite a far ahead of some of the other games, where that means you cannot really I might have been 60-40 to win the game, but I kind of needed to take the draw because risking to lose when you don't know what happens on the other games is not worth it in a team tournament. So that's my personal takeaway is, and something I hadn't really thought about before, when you forward, it's a bit easier to manage, that you actually also somehow need to make sure people are kind of in the same area of the games. You cannot be half an hour behind or in front. You can, but it makes everything harder for the rest of the
for
team.
that coordination and for understanding where the team's trying to get the result to. Yeah, I can see that.
That's a new for me, that feeling thing. That was an interesting take, which is why I hope we will also. My hope is we'll be 9, so there's somebody that can help with having that bigger picture, which I didn't have as I was busy enough trying to play my games.
Peter, so this individually, let's take this one. Do you feel individually it was your fault? And what have you learned as a player from it?
Well, indeed. I mean, for me and Core, we were the two highest scoring people there. I think we sat next to each other for the whole tournament, so I don't think we can personally take credit for the loss there in that sense. Yeah, I mean, there were some difficult situations. There was someone on the team who'd, not been able to play during lockdown. There was someone who'd, I don't want to get into personal reasons and try and blame poor performances. That's not nice.
Okay. Is the captain accountable for the team's success or failure? What are the key aspects of being a captain? And what would you as captain see as your business? Peter.
Okay. I mean, I guess in some senses, there's not any real accountability because it's a board game that we play for fun. So, I didn't get fined or or anything. I don't think I've personally had any particularly negative feedback. There have been a lot of people who've said sort of nice, supportive things, but I think the community is too nice to be mean.
What do you see as your business, as the business of the captain? What's there?
Okay, yeah. So we've had the questions have actually demonstrated that some people's opinion of the captain's role is a bit wider, but the core duty of the captain is choosing the team and leading the team, both in the preparation and at the event. Other than that, they are one of 5 on the committee, and I think it's one of the strengths of the way that Team England works is that we have a committee where all 5 people have equal voices, and these people are the other 4 are voted for by the whole community. So there is and we've got a spread of voices we've got someone from the northeast, someone from the southwest, we've got a couple from the east, and one other person who I don't really know where they're from. So we've got a good committee, and it's the committee's role that thinks about the charter, the communications, the rules. So the captain is a voice, but not the voice.
Notably, no one from London. The anti-London prejudice that is rife around the country continues to this very day, and no one ever challenges
We're all
it.
too busy, I think. Too busy to be helpful.
Core, same question, of course. Is the captain accountable for the team's success or failure? And what are the key aspects of being a captain? What do you consider the captain's business?
But Peter's just said, to some degree, that is set up by the charter. The business is to pick the freaking team and try our best to make sure it's prepared. I think, for me personally, my business will be to try to, again, get a team selected. People actually, hopefully, people will be behind, and we actually have a good lead up in practice. If we're well prepared, anything can happen. But I think we cannot go into 2 U-bolts in a row where we're not well prepared. That's just not gonna fly. We're not there anymore with the new meta. Everything is changed up. We cannot rely as much on.
Okay, well, let me
being good
roll
at
you
not
into
losing.
our next question, because that's very much on that subject, and stay with you, Core, on it. England seems to be the country which was the most conservative in Malta and insisted on playing mostly the same rosters as they did before the rule change. Do you think that's what contributed to it? Pete, as captain, was it your choice to go down that route? And Core, if you're elected, what would you do about that conservatism? So let's start with you, Core. Do you accept that England was conservative?
Very much so. I think we covered that both to
Yeah.
start this. I tried to push my own little slant agenda, but generally just push for, because that's what I've been seeing. It's more aggressive team, more aggressive meta. It's harder and harder just to play for the traditional drives with the old teams and old builds. So I think we definitely went into that trap. Could I have pushed harder? Maybe. But there wasn't much traction, let's put it that way. And I'm pretty sure everyone, hopefully, on the team will agree that was a mistake in hindsight, not being a bit more adventurous. So I'm pretty sure it wouldn't happen again. And simply, the rule pack for Greece is not lending it that way. If you take a look at the practice fumble and look at the teams that's in those teams that's doing well, it's all over the place.
Peter, you talked about this already a little bit, so same question to you. Was England too conservative in Malta? Was that down to
Yeah, I
you,
think
and what
it's
you can do
useful to
about it?
get some. Yeah, sorry, I think it's useful to get some historical context here. So if we look at the Euro Bowls for sort of the 10 years previously, from sort of 2008 up to 2018, there was a pattern of other nations trying to do the wacky, the crazy. We've solved it, and it's there was a team that famously took two dirty player pro elves and claiming that this was the new best team. And whereas England always took essentially with a bit of changing for the players, the same sort of core teams, take it sensible, play sensible Blood Bowl, and beat all the gimmicks. And that was working. That worked. How many? You said earlier, 5 years in a row. So there was a strong history of this tactic working. So I don't want to be too hard on the Conservatives that were voicing this, but I think with what we hadn't had the experience of was the higher variability of the 2020 rule set and the need, as Cora's rightly said, for more aggressive play and more aggressive choices. So yeah, so I want to defend the Conservatives just because they had been right, but I think
People wrote a blog.
in 2020, I don't think they were. And as Core says, I mean, I've just finished playing the NAF rules, and they're completely bonkers. And I've done pretty well with Black Orcs. They shouldn't be doing well in any rule set.
No, they're terrible.
But you get so much money and so many skills that you can, and it's silly. Now I'm hoping that these are draft rules. They're not finalised. They're not locked in. So I'm hoping that things are tweaked a little bit, because it just increases the variability. And I think increased variability, whilst fun for your average tournament, I think is slightly sad for a tournament like Euro Bowl. But we're not going to solve that problem here tonight. And if the rules stay in a pretty similar way to how they are, yes, we're going to need to do a lot of work to be a lot less conservative.
Okay. We've got something very specific now. This has been touched on already. Someone has asked me specifically to ask this. In Malta, Carr had been playing a lot of Slan and doing very well with them. Is it true he wanted to play Slan, but the team decision was to make him stick to Wood Elves? Was it the right choice? Is it true, Peter?
Yeah, completely true. Yeah,
Was
of
it the
course,
right
a number
choice?
of times he wanted to play Slan. I don't think it was the team decision. I think it was my decision. I told him I wanted him to play Wood Elves. I know he disagrees, still does. Was it the right decision or the wrong decision? I still think it was probably the right decision. So for me, I wanted a team that could be more reliable. And I think even if Wood Elves have a bad day, a good player like Core, who was, I think, the best Wood Elf player in the world at the time, would be able to get a draw with them. And my fear with Slan is that they might be more boom or bust. So they might be more likely to win, but they'd also be more likely to lose. So his final result was 2-4-0, which is 4 points, and he would never lost with Wood Elves. Could have easily been 3-3-0 or 4-2-0, given a couple of one-turners. Had he taken Slan, sure, maybe he would have gone 4-0-2, still 4 points, but those losses could be more crucial in a team event. I'm
Very
happy
honest
to be wrong.
answer.
No, I suspect Core will disagree with me, but
Core.
I think to finish my answer, I think I should have listened to him more, allowed him to maybe have some test games against me, rather than just sort of laying it on the line. So that I regret, but whether it was the right or wrong choice.
Core, did you feel you had the option to take Slan? Were you told to take Wood Elves, and was it the right choice?
But you're muted.
You're muted.
I think Pete just said he told me to play Wood Elf, which is correct, and Wood Elf is fine. Like, that's the whole thing. It's fine. Like, I do think Slan is just about as good as not losing as Wood Elf is. At least that's what my stat says. I think mine is 9 and 10% losers with the 2 races, so it's about the same. I think the thing what put me off was not as much I got told. It wasn't generating any discussions at all. It was just a hard no for the as a group thing that was not even a thing to entertain. I think that was the main problem because that was
So the mistake
like,
to you was not even discussing it, but
I
perhaps
think the
not
problem
telling
is
you
that
not to do it.
we wasn't really we just ended up letting people take what they kind of wanted to take. Really, it seemed like
Except
with
you,
a
apparently.
certain degree, like of the solid races. I think the lack of discussion, if there was anything we could have done different, I think was one of the main problems. Was us not even really discussing it because it was just going the traditional way.
Now, we've touched on this already a little bit. Fairly evident, according to this person, that the teams that England that got the podium positions in Malta had practiced very heavily with their races in tournaments using those Euro Bowl rules. The German and Danish teams were all playing in the Resurrection Leagues on Fumble. The Germans also made a practice efforts to challenge teams from other countries to practice games prior to the event. Is online practice valuable? Is it even viable? And is tabletop practice viable pre the next Euro Bowl? Is that something we need to learn from them? Cor, this time we will start with you.
It's like it cannot replace actually meeting up and doing stuff in real life, but it's such an easy way to get more games and get more familiar and get more practice in. So it's silly not doing it like Pete said earlier. I'm pretty we both in the same track, and it's Fumble is there. It's easy to use. Let's freaking use it.
And any hopes or plans to do actual meetups, as you said, and even tournaments together prior to the Euro Bowl?
I'll be happy to. Like I also put in the thread, I'm happy to if there's interest to do something, captain or not captain. Like if people want to meet up and play Blood Bowl in a more informal, like in a more informal setting without NAF points and stuff, if there's actually interest in the community for that, I'm more than happy to be part of that.
Well, perhaps
I
like
just
before a
want to
World
play
Cup,
Blood Bowl.
organise a pre-Euro Bowl home nations. Get Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England together, and in one day you could have 3 games of competitive Blood Bowl with the right teams and things.
I think the Scottish are working on that already, but I think in besides that, just
I
in
might know
general,
something
like
there, yes.
in generally does if, but it is there needs to be community support for it as well. We like I don't care enough about my NAF plans. I'm just like in playing Blood Bowl, talking Blood Bowl. So I'm happy spending a weekend playing Blood Bowl without it being any NAF points on the board. If there's interest out there for it.
PeteW, as the French call you, let's bring you in on this. You've talked a little bit about compulsory fumble practice. What days am I going to have to sign up for? How much of my life do you want if I'm coming onto Team England? And do you
Yeah, I'm
accept
not
that
sure
that
if,
practice that they were doing was perhaps key for the Danish and the Germans?
yeah, I mean, I doubt they were doing more than a game a week, to be honest, which isn't that much, really. Well, an hour and a half a week isn't too much. I think, as Cor said, playing online doesn't replace tabletop, but it allows you to test your roster well. And I think meeting up together to play as a team is valid. And Jim was at the one we had in a lovely house in Nottingham, and it was useful for us. And so when Jim and I played a couple of games with different races as well, so that he could test whether he wanted to use the Wood Elves or the Dark Elves, and they were sort of open conversational games where they weren't so much competitive, but they were sort of collaborative games, and I think that's really valuable in sort of talking through decision-making points. I really liked one of Cor's answers in the Q&A about seeing if you've got option A and B and C, and you're assessing that the risk and the reward of each of those. And I think having those conversations in an open forum, which you can do online with a WhatsApp video chat or in person, I think those are really useful. But there's none of these compare to playing a high stakes Blood Bowl game where there's a lot riding on it. And all of us in this room have been in those games where you're stressed, your heart's going, you're sweating in places where you probably wish you weren't at that moment. And it's can you focus? Can you make the right decisions at that time? That's what you need when you're playing in Euro Bowl, because every single game is a tough game and it's a hard game, which is why I'd be slightly concerned if England took a team which had some untested players. They might have done really well on low stakes games, but if they've not experienced that sort of European aggression coming in your face with a game when your teammates are relying on you, I think that's why getting to places like UKTC or someone who asked a question the other day had been over to the Lutis team tournament in France. Those are great. Those are great tournaments, and they really test you mentally as well as strategically. It's that having that mental fortitude. So yes, I'd say we do want to do the online play, which we'll need to because the rule set is bonkers. So we'll need to test the rosters, and yes, we'll meet up as a team. But I think something I would like to do would be to organise a NAF ranked tournament to make sure that as many of Team England could be there as they can, and then say to people, come and play the best Blood Bowl against the best in England, because then that gives you that high stake. If certainly there are some people whose rankings are more important to them than others. I like chasing the ranking game. It's fun, especially with goblins and black orcs. But if I'm there using my dark elves, those are going to be high stakes games for me. I want to win those. I want to play well. So I think the NAF ranking is useful for training that sort of mental fortitude.
Okay. I mean, very many of us, I think, life's never quite the same until you've really had a European coming hard in your face. I think that does change how you look at lots of things in life. Court, do you agree? Is that something you think is vital to be part of Team England?
I very much do, and I really hope we need to be, if we can do anything we can to get people that is on the bubble, I would say, and outside to actually encourage them to go to, Lutece, Rogue Bowl, Bilbao, Titilian Team Cup. There's so many now.
Yeah.
I think we can be, again, we can be a little bit more helpful trying to get people out those places.
Now, we do have some formation questions about the team coming up. There's a couple more. I mean, we've pretty much moved on from Euro Bowl now, I think. But given the very interesting rule sets from Greece that's been mentioned, is there anything that prospective captains would like to say to other prospective England members about the sort of minimum number of games and experience you think is going to be necessary using that interesting rule set? How committed, what sort of workload are you putting on to prospective Team England members each individually? That's a question we've had, and I think it's worth discussing at this juncture before there's something else I want to talk about in terms of being a Team England member. Court, Peter, actually, let's come first to you this time. Give Court some thinking time on this one.
Yeah, it's an interesting question to try and put a number on it. I mean, 20-25 sounds like a sensible amount playing with your race under a particular rule set. But in some senses, it's the same game. But I think getting an understanding if you've got the difference between 5 skills and 8 skills, for some races can make a huge amount of difference in how aggressive you can be prepared to be, or maybe having an extra reroll or not. So, so I'd say maybe 20-25 would be useful. I suspect, given that what we've seen in the past, a whole number of tournaments will pop up when the rule set is finalised, matching the same rules. I think Andy Davo did his before Malta, and that was really useful. Taking Dark Elves to Andy Davo's. I think I played 4 out of 6 of my opponents were Euro Bowl players, so that was really good. That was really good preparation.
Don't undervalue there just how lazy Andy Davo is in thinking up his own rule sets, which may have been a factor. Same question, of course. How much would you expect in terms of a Team England member practicing? What sort of commitment am I making if I join your Team England?
I don't think we can put a number on it, but that's just silly. But I'll expect a certain amount of commitment. Like you have to do something because that's. But hopefully, anybody that's signing up to the team is signing up because they want to be part of it, and hopefully be part of doing well, not just being there, but actually do well.
Well, and then in related questions, would a prospective Team England person, would you expect them to go to tournaments and always be looking to be super competitive, or would there still be room for fun within the Team England fold? Cool. Let's start with you.
That's definitely in my. If you play enough, then there's also place to have fun and take slightly off offset rosters and races, because some rule sets just lend towards that anyway. Like, I had great fun playing goblins at Frog Bowl, and like it has to be Blood Bowl. We play this. It's a hobby. It has to be freaking fun. And for most people that want to be in Team England, winning is fun. So I think it's not really a problem making people take competitive things.
Peter, would you be expecting all Team England coaches to take competitive builds to tournaments, or where's the place for fun within Team England?
No, definitely not. It's definitely not. It's all about fun. You've got to be enjoying yourself, and I'm someone I love my goblins. I took snotlings for the first time yesterday and had an enormous amount of fun with them. And as I said, I'd go to the Andy Davos tournament and take Dark Elves. I'll go to the NAF Championships and take Dark Elves, but I'm not going to go to a local tournament here and take Dark Elves. I'll take Black Orcs, or something similar. So no, I'm not. There's no 3-line whip in that sense.
As we're talking, we've already talked a little bit about meeting up and things. Have you ever considered a more football-styled meetup where you pull a squad together and you put them through training, get them out running through the tyres, and then thin their numbers down when it comes to competition? Drop 2 or 3 people out of the squad. Pick, say, a squad of 20, have a meeting, and then narrow it to the 12. Genuine question from someone. Peter.
Yeah, happy to jump in on that one. The difficulty there is that the people who are serious about playing for Team England, what they really want to do is they want to play at the Euro Bowl. Ideally in the Euro Bowl, but if not there, they want to be playing in the Euro Open. And so therefore, and the Euro Open fills up very, very quickly. So the window we have to select players for Team England needs to be finished before the window for signing up to the Euro Open opens, which doesn't give us very long. So whilst that sounds like a lot of fun, I think if we did that, we'd actually lose a lot of our good players. They wouldn't want to take the risk. They'd say, I want to be in the Euro Open with my mates. I'm not going to put myself forward. So we need to get Team England done first before the Euro Open starts. So sadly, that's not possible.
Cool. Is this an I agree with Nick moment, or do you have anything else to say on should we have football-style selection camps?
Like Pete, there's some logistic issues with it, but we're coming back to anyone that's interesting. If we can do anything camp-wise anyway, it's not mutually exclusive. Like if there's people that's interested in playing Meet Team England tournaments, if there's people interested in come and play 2 versus 2 for a weekend, there's plenty of options. That's if this just ends with we getting better Blood Bowl in the UK, I'm fine with whatever we do. But it needs to be supported by the community as well. We can try to push everything from the top and down, but if the people that actually have to sign up is not signing up or putting their names forward.
Okay, another question about the parameters of being captain. We had a couple of sad stories during the research phase for this episode. One person said, in fact, alleges that it was on my show, it was on One World, One Blood Bowl, where Joe Manji said, and they've quoted, I still back England to find the best races and rosters and still win Euro Bowl. This was obviously not the case. Is there, and then another person saying, yes, one of their earliest experiences was a new coach reported facing a Team England member and finding their will-at-all-costs mentality a little bit much. The only time they've ever thought about asking the team tournament organiser to let them not play the second half of a game. They didn't enjoy that experience. Any comment on those sorts of stories? This person saying that Joe Manji was being very arrogant on the One World, One Blood Bowl show, and that was shown up by the results, and that this other Team England player was being too win-at-all-costs at a more casual tournament. How good would a player have to be before their ability outweighed any personality flaws? What standard of sportsmanship and personal behaviour do you expect from Team England coaches as their captain? Cool, we're going to start with you this time.
If anybody read, we've been over that a couple of times in the QA as well.
Sure.
For me, it's quite important. I run into a situation last year, actually this year, I was about to say, as an admin team of a tournament, where I was quite happy that a certain player took himself out because he wasn't going to play next day otherwise if he had. I don't want to risk stuff like that in a Eurobowl on a team I'm captaining. That's just not going to fly. Then I'd rather play without, because we're playing against other people that are there. They're paid a lot of money to get there, and it's supposed to be a good, fun experience. And yeah, that was not okay.
Okay. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, on the first comment that Joe made, I mean, it's, he was probably, I assume he was asked, how do you think England will do? And he's going to be positive and confident, because
Is he a brand ambassador once he's a picked Team England member?
No, I mean, if I'd been asked the same question before Malta, maybe I would have said the same thing. So I'm not going to be too hard on Joe for that one. For the second comment, it's difficult to know what the individual circumstance was. If they were being, if the personality was being obnoxious and unpleasant, and that was detracting from the game, then that's a real shame. That's really sad otherwise. And, I always try and make sure my opponent's enjoying themselves. And, if my dice are rolling high, then I'll be apologising. Oh gosh, that's really hard, isn't it? I'm really so sorry. I've rolled my third blitz this game, or whatever it is. I mean, I have had a couple of slightly awkward games with people where, if people have moved a couple of players, no dice have been rolled, and they want to take them back, and I can remember exactly where they were, I'll say, yeah, absolutely, that's fine, it's not a problem. But I've had a couple of moments where people just wanted to do things that were against the rules, So one situation where someone had declared, I'm going to make a pass move. They'd moved the player. They'd rolled, I think, a dodge by this point as well. And then said, I can't remember the exact situation, but they said, oh, no, actually, I want to change it to a handoff. And that's awkward. And that's putting me in an awkward position, because, if they hadn't rolled any dice, I'd have said, yes, it's fine. But they'd rolled a couple of dodges by this point, and, they still had the reroll in place. So fine, going for the go for it's a better option now to do the go for it's and the handoff than it is to stand still and pass, because you've still got the reroll. But so that was slightly awkward, but I don't think that's win at all cost. I think that's just
by slightly awkward. What was your response?
In that situation, I said exactly what I said now. I said, well, I'm really sorry, you declared the pass and you've rolled the dice. So I'm not trying to be a pain about it, but I would never allow myself to even ask that question. And they got a bit huffy about it.
So there is a point at which you would expect both of you for poor behaviour or standards to be a deal breaker.
Yeah, I think so. We're all human beings. Life can get messy. You don't know what's going on in people's home life, in their personal psychology. So, things can happen. Real life can intrude into Blood Bowl. Yeah. That can happen. So we can never be completely avoided. But hopefully people will, as Cora said, if they know that things aren't good, they'll take themselves out.
Yeah, and sometimes I think we all been there. Like, I played Blood Bowl for 25 years now. I think we all had periods where we played more Blood Bowl and less Blood Bowl. It's just other stuff and things go. But yeah. It's just it means something. You are you're coming there with your Team England shirt, so you have some kind of responsibility to not being totally dickhead, I think.
But also, of course, behind every poor story, usually of poor behaviour, there's someone that's suffering. There's someone that's having a tough time. Doesn't mean we should be inflicting it on others. I mean, you see that all too much in life, and of course all too much in Blood Bowl. Now, to pull us out of some of the serious questions, the downbeat mood, I think there are some really important questions we haven't touched on yet. What kit and treasure as England captains would you think people would be able to get from you? What swag would you be encouraging them to have for coming along to Eurobowl? Is it just a shirt? Are they going to get some dice? Are they going to get a cup? What's the payoff? Let's start with Peter.
I'm just laughing here because for Malta we'd got some Spleggy had ordered some dice. They were lovely. He handed them over to me, and I said yes, I will bring these to Malta, and then left them on my hall table. So every single game, members of Team England, and I think the Euro Open as well, Jim, had to sit down and say, thank you for the gift you've just given us. I'm afraid I can't give you ours because our captain left them at home. Which is embarrassing.
Shocking and poor behaviour.
I did spend an amount of personal money posting them to other countries after the event, so people did all get their dice.
Okay, so I might get some dice. Do I have to buy my own shirt?
Yeah. I mean, there's no cash in the kitty. You know, the Team England committee doesn't have a bank balance. Team England doesn't have any money. So if you want to be part of Team England, you do have to pay your way. You've got to pay flights.
This seems to be something you ought to be organising, mate.
Flights, accommodation. So yeah, it's organised centrally. So I think I paid for most of it, and then everyone refunds the amounts. Yeah, so we all paid for our own lovely jumpers, team shirts. We all contributed to the dice that we were giving away to our opponents. Yeah, so if you want it, you've got to pay for it.
Cool. What swag could we expect from you as Team England captain? Are you going to up the swag levels?
No, for my sake, we could. It's swag. It's fine. It's what the team makes it be. Like there's no rules and regulations. It's what people want to organize, and I must admit that's I'd rather organize people playing Blood Bowl than organizing swag. Let's be honest. I have a 2 boxes full of things I never use.
And I don't know if you can hear us still, Speeding, but you can come in on this one too. Someone mentioned, should as England captain you be seeking sponsorship for the team? Help pay for that swag, and possibly even the hotels and limo travel that some people, if they played on Team England, would expect.
Oh, I think it's a tricky one, that, isn't it? I don't see why not. Potentially, if there are no strings attached, which I'm sure there wouldn't be. It's and it's not an insignificant amount of money either. I mean, if sponsors, I don't know. I mean, this is just, I suppose, if sponsors wanted to come on board, and it wasn't particular products that they wanted to give, I mean, Pete's already mentioned that people have to pay their own way. I suppose at some point there might come a time where, we wanted to select someone who perhaps couldn't afford to travel. If there was perhaps a small fund. So I'm sure there are useful things sponsors can do. Whether that's likely to happen at all, I don't know. It's certainly not something that Team England has really got into so far, as I'm aware.
Okay, Peter, should we be chasing sponsorship?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to be realistic here, haven't we? I mean, people are only going to companies, even if it's an individual who run their own company, that it's a sponsorship is paying for advertising, and you only pay for advertising if you think you're going to get a realistic return. And it might be worth their while to have their logo on an England shirt, but they've got to do the calculation themselves as to how much of their money do they want to give to this. So, I mean, there's no TV coverage. There might be a few sort of Twitch streamers. Cora and I might trade our shirts to someone who'll take it back to, Italy or Germany, and maybe they'll become huge there in response. But to be honest, I think it's unlikely. So yeah, let's get some sponsorship, but let's not think it's going to change the world here.
Cool. Would you be selling England to Betfred?
Again, if Betfred come knocking, we can take it from there. And if people have contact. I think all of us is fine to listen, but if it's not outside the gaming world and gaming store world, I have a hard time seeing anyone being really interested. But there's a few teams that got the names from the local gaming stores on here and there, so there's a bit. But it is, yeah, let's not kid ourselves. This is for funs and giggles hobby games, but I'm happy to listen if anybody knows people that have spare money that want to help us.
Now, I do have some other questions I want to bounce through, but there is one thing that we just can't ignore any longer. It came up massively on my server when I asked for questions for you two. And if you can still see the screen, I did ask if you could make sure you had a view of a screen. I just want to show you a few things. The first one, of course, is this. This is something I found on the internet about how one cuts sandwiches. They've put them there, obviously, in the traditional 9-person grid of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons alignment from lawful good, which is the diagonal cut, lawful neutral from top to bottom, lawful evil straight across, and then they've put some things in for neutral good, chaotic, chaotic evil, etc., etc. I decided they were showing off. I don't think we need anyone showing off, so I've cut it to the important issue, the real core of this, which is, of course, those three. That's what the public want to know. Those are the 3 cuts of sandwiches. I just want to know from both the candidates, and when I say I want to know, I think the whole world wants to know, which of those 3 cuts of sandwiches would be the official Team England Blood Bowl sandwich cut. We'll just come very briefly back to the cameras. I'm going to start here with Core because he's the one that had read that thread on my channel to my knowledge. You've had your thinking time. Which of those would be your official choice as Team England captain for how one cuts a sandwich?
Can we just get rid of the bottom one and then I'm fine? I can work with both the other ones. But the mentor can have his weird sandwich for himself.
Okay. You're taking the Liberal Democrat way forward. You're saying either option 1 or 2, but not option 3.
Yes, please.
Not wanting to come down with a hard and fast decision there. I will go to our other candidate, PeteW. PeteW, what of these lovely sandwich cuts, which would be your preferred cut?
It's not my preferred cut, PC. I'm quite happy to give you the definitive correct answer here and clear this question up for good. That's right.
Lovely to hear.
Clearly, the best way to possibly cut a sandwich is the diagonal cut, because it gives you the easy access to your sandwich on the acute angle in the corner. However, if the contents of your sandwich is crumbly and flaky, the diagonal cut means that the contents falls out and ruins your sandwich experience. Therefore, you have to go with the horizontal cut because that maintains the integrity of the sandwich better, giving you a better culinary experience.
Wow. SpeedingBullet, I can see you shaking your head in the background here. Just out of interest, which of the cuts is the right cut?
For me,
yeah,
I haven't been able to see your image, I'm afraid.
Okay,
but
it's
I always go
corner
for a
to
horizontal
corner,
cut.
top to bottom, or side to side.
Side to side.
Oh, well, look, this is quite disappointing because obviously diagonal is perfectly acceptable. Top to bottom is the correct way to cut a sandwich. Side to side, I'm sorry for those people that cut it side to side. This has been perhaps not told to you in your life, but you're doing it wrong. You're cutting a sandwich wrong. That is the wrong way to cut a sandwich. You are effectively a savage. I can prove this. I did some research on BuzzFeed, obviously an undeniably quality source. They have 7 scientific reasons why diagonally cut sandwiches are better than vertically cut sandwiches. But you'll notice they're only comparing it to vertically cut sandwiches because why would they compare it to a sandwich cut side to side? They're not savages. I think that's that issue extremely well handled. Just remember, if you are cutting your sandwiches that way, I mean, I love you still. You're welcome still in the Blood Bowl community, but you're cutting your sandwiches wrong. So we've dealt there with the very thorny issue of the sandwich. Thank you both for your answers. The people will judge you. Of that being no doubt when it comes to sandwiches, the people will judge you. We do have some other questions. Let's bounce through a few of these, and then we are going to have to wrap it up. We've been here for quite a while. How much priority are you going to place on a community as England captain? One person said they had a conversation with coaches in Alicante who are very good. but actively did not want to be part of Team England due to a culture, whether real or perceived. Does that worry you as captain, and what are you going to try and do about it? Let's go with Core first.
I think to some degree it does worry me a bit. At least we're back to the feeling of people enjoying it going badly. I, I want to involve again. England is a big country. I want to involve people that lives in an area far away from me, like the southeast and southwest, for taking two areas I have a hard time getting to, because I think the personal contact with people is easier to judge from than just online and rankings and perceived by other people. Like, it's just, there's no reason not to involve a lot of the good people we have around that's interesting in making this thing a better thing. So why not? Like, I cannot see myself if or when not speaking to Pete and taking his experience and the things he's been looking at, because that's how the world works. I can play Blood Bowl, but I'm not a oracle.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, it saddens me a little bit. I mean, I am aware through personal conversations before I was captain, back in 2018, of this. It was a north-south divide, perception or reality. I'm still not sure which. But certainly the stall on which I based my campaign for 2019 was uniting the North and the South. And I like to feel that was done very well. I had a good selection of Northern coaches and Southern coaches. We got on very well and did terribly. So at least the team was united, and that problem was solved.
United behind ignoring the Southwest.
Yeah, I really don't think that there is a clique or a selection problem anymore. There may be a perception of it amongst a very small number of people, and apologies to Core here because he's not been part of the committee. A number of our committee members have been engaging with people across social media to try and say, look, please tell me why you think this or what evidence you've got, and they've not been getting any conversation back. So I think there are people that like to throw stones, which is a shame. But they're only a very small number of people. But this is social media. There are a small number of people with loud voices. But I think the wider English community, they're either not interested, fine. They're either think, oh, I'll never be on Team England, and I'd say, well, keep trying. It took me how many years of playing? 11 years of playing Blood Bowl to get invited to be on Team England. So, keep trying, keep playing. You'll improve. But there's no automatic inclusion and there's no automatic exclusion. And something I'd quite like to add, if I can, is that if anyone is interested in my opinion, and this is whether I'm voted in as captain or not, I would be very, very, very happy to have a practice game on Fumble with a FaceTime, discussing the game, having a chat through, what decisions you're going to make here, where's the risk, what are the pathways, just finding out how people are thinking and giving them tips. I'll be very happy to do that anytime.
I've got one respondent here saying that they're from the south, so well done. Should they be expecting to go to the UKTC, the NAFC and Water Bowl in order to catch the eye? What are you going to do to reach out into all corners of Blood Bowl? Peter, you've been touching on that. Let's go with you and then we'll go over to Core and he can obviously give a big long answer.
Yeah, I don't think there's any tournament that's required, but I think you do have to go to some decent tournaments. So if you're in the Southwest, then you want to get to the Welsh Open. That's where you're going to have the highest quality Blood Bowl. I think there is value in getting to a team tournament. I'd say, if you live in the south, York's not actually that far away. It's not as far away as you think it is, and the strength of getting together and playing in a team tournament where we get a lot of high quality coaches from other European countries playing at. It's a wonderful experience and it's worth the travel. I think I can't get there because I live in Hampshire, that's not a good excuse. And if you can't get from Hampshire to York, how are you going to get to Athens? It's a
On
lot
an
further.
aeroplane.
So, yeah, so I'd say, you don't have to go to those tournaments, but you should want to because they're really good and they're worth getting to. I've been up to Geordie Bowl. It took 4 hours on the train, but it was worth going because it was an excellent tournament and some really nice guys and girls. They've got a good mix up there. So yeah, you don't have to get to those tournaments, but if all your tournaments are on local county level where you've got 20 people playing, um, that's not going to be good enough experience to prepare you for the Euro Bowl. So that's a step before selection. So yeah, I think people have got to prove themselves.
Right, Big Kev, our king in the north, as chat has just called you. Do I have to come up there north, lad? Do I have to be like a northerner to get on your team? Or can I be reet southern and it be alright, lad? Sorry, am I allowed to be from the south and still be part of Team England? Do I have to come up to your
Very
northern
much so.
tournaments, put on my goose skins and my wolf and oil myself down and trek north of the wall in order to qualify for Team England?
No, it's fine. We'll do our best for getting the south and the south, both the east and west involved. But like Pete said, going to local one day isn't the same as going to a more competitive 2-day or team tournaments. And when we can do advertise for level there, you don't have to go to York next year to get to a team tournament. You can just go Birmingham first weekend of June instead. The UK Gaming Expo will do a Team Tackle Zone team event finally after talking about it for more than 4 years. So that should be good.
And you'd expect people to be stepping up for things like that?
I will definitely hope we'll see a lot of people because, like you said, York might be a bit of a stretch for some people, but Birmingham should be accessible for most of the UK.
I mean, that's why the NEC is there, of course, is that it's in the centre of the country, and that way Birmingham does unite us all in hating Birmingham. So that's something we all have in common when we have to travel there.
So yeah, we are definitely confirmed to the people behind the Games Expo. We definitely are running a tournament.
Now, I want to put three big things into one here that's very much related. What sort of metrics, because you will have selection over the team, what sort of metrics do you plan, if any, to put in place to ensure that it isn't just an old boys club and all your mates? Are you willing to be public with what those metrics are and to select the team publicly and to inform people publicly why they may not have made it? And how are you going to ensure that you're not just picking your mates and that you are bringing the cliques together and picking from the strongest possible pool? So there's a lot of questions I'm trying to wrap up into one there, but I'm aware we are reaching, time to go home time. Let's start with Core. How do we explode the clique myth, if you believe it is a myth? What metrics do you plan to use, and are you going to be open about your selections?
That's a little bit few things we touched about. I don't know which way to start it. I'm not going to put people's name out without asking people if I can put their names out in that have been putting themselves forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing we can get out of the way quite quickly. If people are fine with that, I will be happy to like give a list of people that's put them forward, but people has to sign up for that. So it might be a combination. Be back again. I promise the first thing if I'm getting elected is I was planning to put together like a committee with people from different areas, and that's gonna be public because I'm committed to doing that. So that's gonna be a thing. And I'll put names on because otherwise people cannot talk with those people, which is supposed to be my eyes and ears in those areas. So, but yeah, in the end, this is a trust because we cannot. That's the way our system works is trusting you elect the right person to pick the right team, which is good and bad, but that is the system we have.
Peter.
Yeah, so the first bit on metrics. I mean, we've both talked about this a lot more in the Talk Fantasy Football thread, so I would direct people to look there. I will be looking at rankings. I'll be looking at the NAF database to see that the games that they've played, but that's not a be all and end all. Rankings can be abused, so you can get artificially high by just running around the country, going to easy tournaments with your favourite race to squeak up the ratings. But you can get into the data enough to be able to work that out. In terms of avoiding selecting my mates, well, that's going to be quite tricky because I've been friends with Core, say, for when did we first play? 2005. Was that 18 years? Online and in person. He's been around my house a number of times. He's met my children. Yeah, he's also probably one of the best players in the country. If I pick him, am I picking my friends? Well, my friends also happen to be some of the best players in the country because I meet them at tournaments. But if there are some other coaches that are absolutely fantastic, who I don't know, I really, really hope that they apply because I want to get to know them. I want to get to know their reasons why they think they're good. And I would say, please don't be modest. Tell me why you're good so I can look into that. And I would love to make some new friends and make the best and most competitive Team England we possibly can.
Okay.
In terms of publicly saying why people didn't get picked, that sounds like cruel and unusual punishment to me. I don't think I want to do that, no. I will happily go back to people and say to them privately why they weren't picked and what they need to do. And I did that in 2019, and it's been really nice to see a couple of those people I spoke to have followed my advice and done what I said. And that's been really great to see. But no, I'm not going to do that publicly. I'd be quite happy to publicly say why I picked people. Traditionally, that's usually only done for the new caps. So I think I gave Core a bit of an introduction when he was picked, and Besters before that when he was picked. So that's nice to sort of do as an introduction for people when they join the team.
Okay.
Could I just add actually,
Sure.
PT, if I may,
Of course
just
you can.
because I don't think it's been said tonight, but I think Team England does have a tradition of picking a new cap for each Euro Bowl. I think it always has. It's not formalised or written down anywhere, but I believe Team England has always chosen someone new for every Euro Bowl. Of course, there's no reason why it can't be more than one person. Maybe we'll see quite a few this time. I don't know, but certainly there has always been at least one every time the tournament's been held.
Thank you for that. Carl's talked about appointing a vice captain. There would presumably also need to be a vice captain of the European team to actually do the tactics game to game, or would the Team England captain be expecting to run both teams tactically during that event? So how do you feel about vice captains, both of you? Would there be two or just one? Would there be a playing captain of the European, or would the vice captain go over and tell them orders-wise what to do? And with the committee as well, does that mean too many, and I'm not allowed to use the analogy I was going to use, too many people at the top of the food chain and too many people down the bottom? We no longer say anything to do with Native Americans and their clan structure. Apparently that's now not okay. Core, it's your idea to have vice captains. Wouldn't you need a second one on the European team? And does that mean too many big people running the organisation and too many little people at the bottom?
I think there's distinct difference on being 8 people playing and being 4 people playing. So I don't think it's necessarily European. I will really like it. On the Euroball team, there's also, with 8 people, a more chance of somebody catching a bug and other things. So just being sure you're not playing down-handed is...
Okay. So the
will be
European
nice.
team can just chat about it between rounds.
I think it's a bit easier to organize when you're 4 people than when you're 8.
Okay.
And trying to play your own game in the sense. And the thing is, I tried 2 times now in team tournaments within a year, having somebody sick for at least a round, which is not great.
Okay. Peter, would you think we'd need a vice captain or 2 vice captains, or does everyone get to be vice captain? Do we all get a badge?
Yeah, it's a really nice idea in principle, but I'm not sure how it would work in practice. Because if Core gets in as captain and he calls me up and he says, Pete, I'd love you to be my vice captain. Please will you leave your family, pay to come to Athens to watch a load of your friends play Blood Bowl? I'd say it's a really nice idea, but I'm really sorry. I don't want to do that.
I think
So if we can find someone, who is a much nicer person than me, who is quite happy to come and be part of Team England, who's got enough, I guess, strategic nous to be able to read the positions of the games, assess the likely scores, work out what might be the best decision in each individual cases. If that person exists who's willing to pay to come to Athens, brilliant, get them on the team. But I don't think the playing team could subsidise them. I don't think that would fly with the rest of the team. So I think it's a lovely idea in principle, but I don't see how it'll work in practice. And I would love to be wrong, because I do genuinely think it's a very good idea.
Okay. I've only got a couple more questions, and then we are going to try and wrap up. The first one is where have I lost that one? Yeah, I mean, it's just to come back to this a little tiny bit. Speaking from personal experience, someone says they couldn't care less about Team England. They're very national, patriotic when it comes to rugby, football, cricket even, but not about Blood Bowl. How could you, as Team England captain, and this may be for the committee more than you, reach out and make it something people are interested in and then even proud of? I know we've touched upon it, but I just thought we might have another little go around at that. Let's start with Peter, then we'll bounce over to Carl.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I can understand why. I mean, Blood Bowl's not quite the same as our national football, rugby team or cricket team. It's a whole other scale. So I can quite understand why people don't really care. But it's interesting. I mean, I quite enjoy watching my friends play. So if the NAF Championship, if I've lost game 4 and I'm out of the runnings, and I finished my game quite quickly, I'll be hovering around the top tables, interested to see what's going on and who might be winning. So that sort of spectator element is relevant, and certainly on the online tournaments, I've been watching Jim's team in the Euro Bowl warm up. I've been speccing some of their matches. They've been doing very well, and very very proud to see that Jim and Nick, two of the people that I picked for the European team, have finished one place ahead of my team in the final standings. So well done to Jim and his team. And so it's nice to sort of, as you get to know people, to start supporting them a bit more. So hopefully this person that isn't interested in Team England, well, maybe if they do start spectating other matches, they might sort of see the value and enjoyment in doing that and following things.
Cool. Get them to care. Can you?
To be fair, I think I've been around this multiple answers, because that's whole thing is the reason I'm standing in the first place, is trying to see if we can find a way around that. So yeah, let's see, and we can go back if I can to advise Cap. The whole thing, there's so many new people that might be possible to find a person, might not, but we can give it a try. If we don't try, we definitely don't get. Somehow France has managed to do it multiple times, so.
Okay, and we also have a curmudgeon who wants to say, how are you going to assure them that you're not going to be too influenced by this modern internet? Is it possible to please all the people, should you even be trying? The internet is a sea of fools. Why are you ever going to listen or accept what they say? Cool.
It's like, yeah, there will always be people not happy no matter what we do. But again, like I keep saying, it doesn't stop us from trying to do better. Just because people will still be moaning, no matter what you do, that shouldn't stop you from trying to do better.
Peter?
Yeah, it's Blood Bowl's a bit like a pantomime, isn't it, really? And you go to a pantomime and you love to boo the villain. And if you went to a pantomime and there wasn't a villain, you'd find somebody to boo, because everyone loves to boo the villains. And in some senses, I think in Team England, we're always going to be that pantomime. They're always going to want to see a villain, and there's always going to want to be a boo. That's going to happen. I'm going to try and make a competitive team that will do as well as we can, with the best people from the broadest reaches of the community. That's my mandate. It's broadly the same as Cause.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try and do our best. Will we make everybody happy? No chance. Are we going to go out of our way to really try and make people happy? Well, we'll come on shows like this and try and convince them. We'll go on the Talk Fantasy Films Q&A threads. I'm not going on Twitter or X or whatever it's called ever. I had to do that for 3 years as a job. I'm never going on Twitter again. So if there are people grumpy on Twitter, they'll have to stay grumpy.
I'm certainly, for one, very grateful for the content. Thank you both. And Jim, of course. Thank you all for coming on. Okay, I've got one absolute stinger. It's up to you. You can refuse it. It is your right. And then we've got a couple of a nice one to end on. You've both been absolutely lovely about each other. I sense that you are both good friends and would be very positive about the other one winning and being Team England captain. I love you both. I have no idea how I'm going to vote. I shall probably ask my wife. What are the reasons it shouldn't be the other guy? I'm going to start here with Pete. Pete, why shouldn't it be Carr? Why should they not vote for your opponent? Are you going to run a negative ad campaign? Now's your moment.
Certainly not. Well, I'm actually happy to say that I initially said to Core that he should run as captain. So I said, you should run as captain. I think you'd be great. I'm probably not going to do it. I then changed my mind, put myself forward, and I was delighted when he did as well, because I thought we'll have a really good campaign.
Yeah, delighted.
No, I was delighted. It's good for Team England community. If Core wins, I'll be very happy. If I win, I'll be happy. So, I'm not going to say it shouldn't be Core, because I'd be lying to everyone and lying to myself. He's a great guy. I think he'd be a good captain. I guess if I had to say anything, I would be maybe a little concerned that he might go too far to sort of please the community. And I think one of his comments, he said it'd be possibly a less competitive team. Maybe that's just electioneering. I don't know.
Core, is this a dagger you see before you? Do you wish to stab PeteW? Why shouldn't it be the other guy?
The problem is, like Pete says, I think the where we're standing on is quite similar. I think mine is slightly more, like Pete say, I'll maybe do a bit more to try to get it out to the community. If that's meaning I will listen too much, I might go too much in the other direction, like where we were last year. That's could be a possibility, but I not necessarily think it's bad for the community as a whole if we do end up in that situation. I think both things will work. It's like I think all of people was involved in Malta want to do better. Like nobody want to finish whatever it was.
Okay.
Like at any tournaments, period.
I'm not sure I got my Donald Trump stepping in front of Hillary moment that I was searching for. No. But never mind, we'll move on. You're both lovely, lovely people, and you've been very nice to each other. Here's your nice one to finish on. What would you hope would be your legacy as Team England captain? What are you going to leave behind in a year's time when this is done again? Core, to you.
Hopefully we'll have the whole community cheering another England win. That'll be lovely.
Peter.
Yeah, I guess in some senses my legacy's done in that I feel like I united the North and the South. But in terms of from Greece, yeah, I'd like another win on the books.
Okay, now I did say we would do closing statements. Joe, do you remember how we started? Who started? I don't remember now. Who wants to go first? I think Peter did. So I think we'll go to Pete, yes, for the first closing statement, and then we'll come to Cole. But before we do, let's just hear from Pete himself from SpeedingBullet. How have you felt about this evening? Is this the future for how we select Team England captains? Should we, in fact, next time go with a Squid Game model?
Was that a question to me?
Yeah. We're buying them some thinking time. We chat for a bit now.
Yeah, I think it's been good. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed listening. I've enjoyed listening to both. We've got two excellent candidates. So yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't do this every time. Why not? Yeah.
And if people have been moved to vote, how would they do that? Yeah,
well, firstly, I'd like to say please do vote. we're using Talk Fantasy Football, which perhaps isn't the most used platform these days, but we have been trying to advertise it more widely, of which this is part. So
it will be linked
please,
in the notes for the podcast and in the notes for the VOD YouTube, and also in the notes if you're watching this on my highlight reel on the Twitch. So there will be a note where you can find Talk Fantasy Football. It's not my problem if you're not signed up there though yet.
Yeah. So please, if you're watching this, do engage. Do have a think about who you'd like to be. Your captain for Team England for Greece. Vote in the election when it opens tomorrow. Whilst you're there, if you're interested, and hopefully you are, have a look at the charter as well. See if you like the sort of the tidy up that we've done for that. Vote on that while you're there. Please do engage.
Absolutely. And thank you for the work you're putting in. For free, no one's paying you to be part of the Team England committee. It is a job that needs doing, so thank you very much for that. Thank you to my two guests who are also putting themselves forward for what can't be, I don't know, is it a good job to be running Team England? A lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, but they want to do it. Peter, your closing statement to the people, to the masses, your call to arms.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for hosting us this evening as well. And to anyone who's still listening, an hour and 50 minutes on, well done. I salute you. Your fortitude is amazing. I guess I'd just say that I'm a helpful guy with free evenings. So if you'd like a FaceTime fumble game, drop me a line, TFF, Fumble or Discord. I'll happily get back to you. And yeah, I'd love to leave England again, and I hope that you'll be able to vote for me.
Thank you, Peter. And Corey, your closing statement.
Yeah, thank you, PC, and thank you for Jim for being here. I think, let's be honest, actually, most the guys that is involved around Team England, I think most of us will go a long way to play with people if people just ask. So don't be afraid from asking for advice or to look at rosters or whatever, or play a game. Like most of us love talking about Blood Bowl and playing Blood Bowl more than anything else. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. We're back to the perceived thing, like it goes both ways. Please ask us. Say hi when we play tournaments. Like introduce yourself.
There you are. Corey's promising to be your friend, and Pete's promising to be your online friend. So if you need more friends, these are the guys to vote for. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is I do think there's a stigma around Team England. I've also heard people happy, celebrating Team England not doing well. I don't know if I feel particularly a part of Team England. I'm not very nationalistic. I'm a bit of a Ronin. I'm a bit of an iconoclast in my soul. But that doesn't mean I don't celebrate England doing well. They're guys I like. It's part of the scene I'm part of, and I play Blood Bowl too. So a good England team is good for us all. I think we've got two stunning opportunities here. Either one I think would be an excellent captain. I still at this point don't know which way my vote is going. But they both put up with me being quite aggressive with them at times this evening. I thought answered the questions really, really well. I'm not sure there's something there that you could go, oh, I love this, or I hated that. There may be for you. And if not, and if you are undecided, or if you're just interested in what they want to say about other things, do go and read that Talk Fantasy Football thread. They've expressed themselves at great length there on some really interesting issues as well that we haven't had time to put into this place. Into place ready for this evening. I thought we'd concentrate on the ones that were cropping up again and again. Some of the more niche issues I have had to leave to one side slightly. But I think we've covered enormous amounts of stuff. It is interesting who gets to be the Team England captain and how much responsibility or weight we put on their shoulders. When of course there is going to be a whole team that they get to select. So it's not just them, it's them and their friends and their family. That's who we really need to be putting the pressure on, because obviously that's who they're going to take with them. That's been One World, One Blood Bowl number. I'm joking. It'll probably be at least half fair. That's been One World, One Blood Bowl number 42. Team England captain. Which of those two blokes should it be? It's up to you to decide. I'm not going to tell you which way to vote. It's between you, your conscience, and the ballot box. I hope to see you on those Talk Fantasy Football pages. I hope everybody does bother to go and express themselves in a vote, or just say you think the whole process is rigged and it should obviously have been Boaty McBoatface. We never got to work out what goes first on a scone. It's a pressing issue, but not as important as the sandwich issue. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. We'll catch up very soon. I've got more episodes coming out in both November and December. A full autumn of stuff. I'm just getting them in place, and we will see you on the next One World, One Blood Bowl very, very soon. If everyone could wave, it helps me find it in the edit. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay, so that's where